I beat Hana by like this much, even though she cheated and left before all of us.
How long have you been working on that trick?
I learned it yesterday. At that point, the next season, I entered a couple pro events, which at the time were more open. Now you kind of have to qualify for these events, but at the time you could kind of, as anyone, like pay to enter these events and get into the qualifying rounds. And the first event that I entered was Breckenridge, and it was a Grand Prix, and I was 13 and I ended up placing third at that event. I was kind of just like this kid that no one knew who ended up on the podium. And at that event, I actually did the first 900 that had ever been done by a girl.
The Youth Brigade March continues here in Colorado. Look at that, 13 years old.
And it was just like this really crazy experience where I was at this event with all of my idols, really. Like, I remember seeing like Kelly Clark and Gretchen Blyler and like Trisha Burns, and like being in the start gate and being like starstruck by them, but then like ending up on the podium with them. And that, I would say, was like the takeoff of my career. And I got invited to X Games. I ended up going to the US Open that year.
Elena Hight. Why don't you do the introduction, Louie?
She's like one of the first girls to do a frontside 9.
Elena, I mean, she was one of those women that were like the first to do a lot of tricks. I mean, it's not maybe talked about as much now with the tricks that are done in half pipe, but if you really look back in time, I mean, Elena was so good at spinning, and she wasn't one of those women at the time either that just spun and was, it was more like figure skating. Like, she was able to grab, front 9s, back 9s, 10s.
It's always fun to come out and hang out with everyone. Everyone's riding really well, and it's a good contest.
I just remember her as like this young girl prodigy. Like, she hung out with like the older girls, and like her outward persona to me was like, I'm like, wow, this girl is so young and so dialed. She was competing against girls way older than her, but like she was on it. Like, from when she was like 10 or 11, she had like back-to-back 5s, which a lot of the other girls didn't have, and then like she elevated the game with the back-to-back 9s and always, spun good cab.
And the winner, taking home $17,000. Let's hear Elena Hight! Congratulations to all the ladies.
I've never seen you do the back-to-back 9 combo. That was pretty amazing. Is this the first competition you've put it together in?
Yeah, actually I've been working on it quite a bit in a few different contests. Haven't really gotten to put it together, but the jam format always, pushes your riding, so it's good. And then the following season, I turned 14, and I really wanted to be a part of like this bigger culture, and somehow convinced my mom that it was a good idea to let me move to Mammoth, which was like the epicenter of snowboarding at the time. A bunch of other people had just graduated from high school and all moved to Mammoth at the same time. Kimmy Fasani, the Matrani brothers, the Pierces. We kind of had like this crew of young kids that like inundated Mammoth of just like, this is where the pros are, and this is where we're gonna ride and, try to make it in snowboarding.
I wanna say she was 15. That was when I like really got to know her. She came up to Mount Hood and won that abominable snow jam. And I think she won a car, and she wasn't old enough to drive it, if I remember right. But she could have been 16 at that point. But I do think that she won a Volvo up at that contest, and it was pretty rad.
I think down in Snow Summit at a Triple Crown, maybe? We were at the Sessions house, and I think she was in a room at the Sessions house with like Roberta Roger, who was looking after a couple young kids, and we were partying there, and it was like Janamayan, me, Runky, a bunch of people, and we were thrashing the Sessions house. And I remember there was one door that was closed, and we went in there, and it was like refugees on the floor, just all, ah! like what's happening outside? They were like sheltering in place from like the party mayhem that was going on outside. And I was just like, oh my God, there's people in there. And I think Elena was one of the people in that room too.
She probably threw one of the most technical tricks that I could think of, her regular or alley-oop backside double rodeo. I know that was a struggle, and I know that she was working on that for some time and super scared of it, as she should be, because that's a pretty scary trick. Like, I would never freaking try that, you know. She stepped up and she stomped it when she needed to during X Games. That was a pretty cool moment for her.
The alley-oop rodeo is just a trick that I love doing, and figured I could do it double, and worked on it for a while and ended up landing it in the 2013 X Games. The first girl or guy to land it. It was a pretty incredible feeling to be the first person to do something.
In the new age, the first one, man or woman, to do alley-oop double backside rodeo. I mean, I remember there was guys trying it, and Elena was the first one to land that in competition. So she's not only been dominant in halfpipe, but she's pushed it from a young age all the way into the whole double cork scene.
I felt from a really young age she was like on Burton head to toe and had all this like attention and light on her, and I like admired it, but maybe my young self was kind of like a bit intimidated of her and kind of shy. And then as I got a little bit more confident in myself, I think we were competing at X Games together. We finally just started like hanging out. I'm like, hey, like, how have you been the last 10 years? And it wasn't really one specific thing. I think it was just both of us like respecting each other and not having any like competitive vibe, because at that point I took a left and like really focused on slope style, and she took the pipe and was like head over heels in love with that. So we didn't have that competitive spirit with each other. So we kind of had that mutual respect and just like supported each other from there on out. Probably the next like 10 years that she was competing.